Today is our first day of acrylics, and we're just going to do an easy introduction to acrylics so that we can get used to the materials. So we have 6 different colors of acrylics, and today we are going to only focus on using 5 of them. We are going to use white and black and our 3 primary colors. Red, yellow, and blue are considered primaries because you can mix all of the other colors from these 3. That means that I'm going to take out the green. My green is actually a secondary color. If I were to mix yellow and blue, I would get a green. So you can put the green away. We're also going to need a pencil, an eraser, a flat brush, probably a couple of flat brushes. And although we're not going to use our watercolors, we're going to use the lid in order to help guide us because we're going to make a color wheel. We'll also need some water for rinsing and a paper plate that we're going to be using as our palette. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is to use our tray lid from our watercolors and make a color wheel. This is similar to the color wheel that you made using watercolors, and it's a great way to get used to your materials. So we're just going to lay it down. We're going to make a circle, and we're going to mark where each of these spines comes out to the edge of the circle. Just like that. Now we're finished with our lid, we can go ahead and put it away. We're going to extend our little marks. It looks kind of like a little sun. We're going to extend it through the circle, and you can use a straight edge if you'd like. I just grabbed one of our canvases in order to make my lines kind of straight, but it's okay. If you want to just eyeball it, you can make your lines not using this little canvas. That's fine too. Straight enough is straight enough. So if you did it correctly, we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different segments. Those 6 segments are going to be our primary and our secondary colors. So our primary yellow is going to be at top, so we can write primary yellow. Primary red is going to be down at the bottom right. So we can write primary red. And over to the bottom left is going to be primary blue. So let's go ahead and get those colors in place. I'm going to set up my palette the same way I'm setting up my color wheel. So primary yellow is going to be at the top, primary red down here at the bottom, and primary blue over here. And when I squeeze out the acrylics, I'm going to squeeze out an area that is no bigger than the cap. No bigger than the cap. That's about the size of a quarter. And the first thing that you might want to do is shake it up. And you might need to give it a couple of hard taps in the palm of your hand so that the paint comes down to the tip. Since primary yellow is at the top of my color wheel, I'm going to put it at the top of my palette, and I'm going to put out, I can always add more, so I'm going to put out about half the size of the lid. Same with the blue, since primary blue is bottom left. Shake it up just in case the pigment and the binder have separated. And then give myself a little squeeze. Again, I can always add more. It's about half the size of the lid. Make sure that when you shake it, you have the lid closed. Okay, now these are Blick acrylics, and they're relatively thin, which is nice because you can squeeze it out of this kind of tube. We're going to be using our middle-sized flat brush. And the first thing that we're just going to do is to put our primary yellow in the primary yellow space, the primary blue in the primary blue space, and the primary red in the primary red space. I always start with the lightest color because it's easiest to clean that out of my brush. So I almost always start with my yellow. And if it's more convenient or comfortable for you, as it is for me, then you can adjust your workspace. Now, since I'm using a flat brush and I have flat areas, then I'm going to be thoughtful about how I use my brush in order to create nice solid edges. So I'm going to run my brush against the edges using the flat of my brush and the flat of the edge, and then slowly, carefully pulling that color into the middle. And since it's always easiest to cut a nice edge, if you can see that where your paintbrush is touching the edge, then I'm actually going to turn around my paper so that I can do the same thing on this side. And then I'm going to get a nice clean edge. Okay, that looks pretty good. Turn it back. Now, I could rinse this off, but I'm going to see if I can just clean it off using my paper towel. Looks like there's still some in there. So now I can get off the excess color. Using the paper towel first keeps my water from getting too dirty too quickly. So now I'm going to do the primary red. Again, I'm just going to pick up the red with my brush. You really want to make sure that you don't have a lot of water on your brush, so make sure that you wipe it off with your paper towel before you pick up paint. This is pretty thin acrylic paint, so if you water it down, it'll become even thinner, and it might mean that you need to do multiple layers, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As an artist, you might decide that that's what you want to do from time to time, but today we're just using the consistency of the paint itself without thinning it. And I'm going to use this to create my shape, pull into the center. Okay, there we go. Kind of go over it. You can see how some areas are a little thinner than others. If I want to get a nice solid color, then I just want to go over it a little bit. Use my paper towel, wipe off the extra paint, use the water to rinse it, wipe off the extra water, and then do my blue. Rotate my paper so that I can see where my brush is touching the paper. And that's going to give me a nice line. Now the blue tends to be a little bit thinner, so you might need to go over it with another layer of paint, and if it helps, to let it dry for just a couple minutes and then go over it again, that's fine too. All right, there we go. Excellent. Wipe off my extra paint, rinse, take it out the final paint, and then really do a good job of wiping off the extra water so that it's as dry as it can be. Now we're going to mix our secondary colors, and we're only going to be using red, yellow, and blue today, so we're going to mix those colors in order to get a secondary and see what color they come up with. So if you mix primary blue and you mix primary red, you get secondary purple, or in the art world, purple is called violet. And, oops, I guess I don't need to turn it. If you mix primary yellow and primary red, you get secondary orange. And if you mix primary yellow and primary blue, you get secondary green. Now this is so cool because it makes you as an artist pretty powerful, because you can use just 3 colors and mix a variety of colors. So let's see what happens when we mix our acrylics. Now again, I'm always going to start with my yellow, and because it's the lightest, so it's the easiest to work with and wash out of my brush. I'm going to be mixing it with either the blue or the red. I think I'll mix it with the red first in order to get my orange. If I look at my palette, what I'm going to do is pull some of my yellow into a mixing area, pull some of my red into a mixing area. Then I can control how much yellow and how much red are making the perfect orange. It's really important not to just act like you're making soup or cookies where you just add paint right on top of your paint, because then you can't control the proportions. So I'm going to start by taking some of my yellow and pulling it out into a place that's between my red and my yellow. And then I'm going to add a little bit of red. Now I know that red is a very strong color, so I'm going to use mostly yellow with just a little bit of red. Now that looks pretty good. It looks like it's maybe a little bit more yellow than it is red. If you need to add a little bit more red, you can just pick up a little bit more red. If you feel like your orange needs, maybe it's too red, then you can pick up a little bit more yellow and bring it in to your mixing area. Once you get the proportions that look as orangey as possible, and that looks pretty good, then you can use that color to fill in your orange. And rotate this around. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Looks like an orange. Now it's just a little tiny bit thin, but I can let it dry for a minute and then come back to it. Or I might just be able to add a little bit more color right on top. There. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to take my paper towel, wipe off my extra paint. Give it a little bit of a rinse and then get rid of that extra water. Now I'm going to be using the yellow and the blue, mixing it here in order to make a green. Yellow and blue, making secondary green. So I'm going to take a little bit of my yellow, bring it out. Again, of the 2 colors, yellow is the weaker color and blue is the stronger, just meaning that it's going to take less of the stronger color in order to mix. So I'm going to pick up just a little bit of the blue, put it out there. If I need a little bit more blue, I can always add just a little bit more, but this is how artists control their proportions. And it just gives you a lot of power, because then you can make your mixed colors as you can just make them kind of what you have in your eye, in your mind's eye, instead of just kind of what it ends up being. All right, so here's our green, and we can go ahead and it kind of looks like an olive green, which is pretty nice. Okay, that is my mixed secondary green. So now I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off, give it a rinse, and then mix my last two colors of green and, or rather blue and red. Notice that there's a little bit of yellow that got into my blue, and if that bothers me, I can just kind of move that over to the side so that I don't have any yellow. If I have yellow in my mix for purple, it's not going to turn out very purple. Now, I mentioned before purples are really tough to mix. Let's see what kind of color purple we get when we put together this red and this blue. So of the two colors, the blue is the stronger, so I'm starting with my red, pulling some of it into my mixing area, and then adding a little bit more blue until it gets to be a purple. And you can tell I'm kind of like smushing the extra paint off of my paintbrush so that it is mixed as much as possible. Okay, so it's getting to be kind of a purple. It's getting to be kind of a muddy, funny purple. And if I find that it's too blue, it went from being a little bit too red to being a little bit too blue, and I can just bring in a little bit more of the red until I get as close to, and this is going to be a dark, kind of dark, dirty purple is what it looks like. Nonetheless, it is a purple. So we can go ahead and, when you find the color that you're happiest with, maybe I want some more blue in there. Okay, let's see. That's a weird purple, friends. It's a weird purple. So if I was doing a painting that required a lot of, like, if it was a stormy sky, this would be the perfect purple for a stormy sky. But if I was doing a painting that had, like, I went to Kansas State University, and if it was like trying to be the purple for K-State, I would probably buy a purple instead of using this one. So it just kind of depends on what you have and what you need and what you're trying to paint. All right, I'm gonna wipe that down, rinse it off, give it another wipe, trying to find a spot on my paper towels that doesn't have, ooh, look, I'm getting myself dirty. I might need a new paper towel now. Okay. So let's go ahead and make a notation that we mixed this purple and we mixed this beautiful orange and we mixed this beautiful green. So now we're going to learn about tints and hues. And we're going to use the shape of our canvas and trace it. I put it over here and down, like so. And we're going to divide this into half. And then into thirds. Okay. Now we're going to divide from the top to the bottom. We're going to divide that in half. It's okay if you just eyeball it. Make a straight line. We're going to divide the half into half. You can just eyeball it. And then we're going to subdivide each of these sections into 3. Okay. All right. Now we can put that away. So across the top, we are going to do some experimenting with mixing colors. And so we're going to start with the yellow, go to orange, go to red, go to our violet, blue, and green. We're going to do the same thing going down the side, creating kind of a little chart. So I'm just following along: yellow, orange, red, violet, blue, and green. Now in each of these, I'm looking at it like a chart. So in each of these sections where I see yellow and then I see yellow, then I'm just going to use my mixed or my primary yellow and fill in that little square. Like so. Paper towel. Down. Same thing when I see orange and orange. I'm just going to use the mixed orange that I have on my palette. Down, red and red, marching my way. Through my colors, violet, and violet is going to make our funny purple. Okay. Blue and blue. If I still have some pure blue, I want to get my pure blue. Nice. Looks like I got mostly pure blue. And I might have to rinse out my brush. I've just been using my paper towel. And pick up some of my mixed green. Okay, so there's the colors on my chart that are just straight from my palette, and now I'm going to see what happens when I mix. So when I mix yellow and orange, so I have my orange, right, and I'm going to add more yellow in there. What happens? a yellowier version. Okay. Now, when I mix yellow with red, well, we kind of already know that, right? Mixing yellow with red, yellow and red gives me a version of orange. Now is when it starts to get interesting. Yellow and violet. Now this is really great for artists to know. When you mix colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, you end up getting a neutral brown or gray. And if you have mostly one color, like if I had mostly yellow and then just a touch of the purple, then I would end up with a duller version of my yellow. It just wouldn't be as bright. So yellow plus violet gives me this kind of grayish, sometimes I think of it a little bit as like baby poop color. I know that sounds really gross, but I've had nieces and nephews and I know what I'm talking about. Okay, yellow and blue. So if we do yellow and blue, then we're going to get our green. So this is nothing new, right? We've done this before. Okay, yellow and blue makes this green. But if I add to my green plus more yellow, then I'm going to get a yellowier version. So this is just basic color mixing. Oh, you know what? You actually don't have to do this side of the chart. That is so cool. Right? Because this side is the same as this side. So you can just take out this side of the chart and get all of your mixing over here. So orange and red. Yes, that is true. So if I have orange and I have red, and it looks like I might have to mix a little bit more orange, and then add in more of the red. And then orange and violet. Looks like I'm running out of orange, so I'm just gonna make myself a little bit more orange. Feel free to give yourself a little more dollop of paint if you need it. Try to keep your mixing areas relatively small so that you're not like mixing the whole plate. And a little bit of violet. That is going to give me orange and violet. Yep, that's going to give me one of those colors that's kind of a dull baby poopy color, but I'm telling you, it's great for stormy skies. Orange and blue. So here's my orange, and add a little bit of blue. Okay, orange and blue. Orange and green. So here's my unmixed orange, and it looks like I need to add a little bit of blue and yellow. That's my green. Orange and green. and violet. Oh, I still have some violet. Find a little spot and add more red. So then it becomes a tertiary color, a red violet, red and violet. And red and blue, that's going to give me the violet that I started out with. I already have it mixed. And let's see, red and green. I'm gonna have to make a little bit more green. So I'm going to add a little bit of pure blue, a little bit of pure yellow, make myself a little bit of green. I know that this is where it was before, so I can start with my yellow and pull in a little bit of my blue. Oh, that's a nice green that time around. So let's see, where am I? Green and red. So green, put that over here with a little bit of red. And those are opposite each other on the color wheel. So again, it's going to give me red and green. It's going to give me my neutrals. Violet and blue. I think I still have some violet here. So I'll pull it out. Add a little bit of blue. Again, trying to keep my mixing area nice and small. Violet and blue. It's just a bluer purple. Okay, almost done. Violet and green. I'm taking my pure violet, coming over here just a little bit because it's a little square. Adding my green. Again, I'm going to get a neutral because they're opposite each other, closer to opposite than side by side. Okay, so my phone got full and it turned off just before I did this last little bit, but you should have yellow, red, and blue, a little bit of black and a little bit of white in the center-ish, and then pure yellow on your mixing chart for this bottom section. Okay, so we are going to have this column be pure color, and then the next column add a little bit of white, and then the next column add even more white. So we are going to be making, using your hue, we're going to be making tints. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to take our pure yellow, put it over here, and we're going to pick up some of the white and mix it in with our yellow, about half and half. Be a little bit more. Kind of wipe off your paint and then put it on the tip of your brush because this is the part that's actually painting. And put that in place there. So this is a tint of yellow. It's just a tint because it has some white in it. Now we're going to make a lighter tint by adding more white. And making it even lighter. And then as an artist, that's pretty cool because you can control how light your yellow is by how much white you put into it. I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. I'm going to do all of my tints first. So the next color is orange, and I know that I can make orange by adding yellow and red together. And it looks like I got too much red in there because it just looks like it's still red. So I'm going to pick up some more yellow and mix it in. That's looking more orange. So part of this is just getting to kind of know your colors and how much of each color or hue it takes to mix in order to get your desired results. Now this is my regular orange, so I'm going to go ahead and put in my orange spot. And since I already have it, this is going to be my pure orange over here, so I'll go ahead and add that in there. And now I'm going to do the two columns that are plus white and plus double white. So with my orange mix, I'm going to pick up some white, mix it in. It should give me a lighter orange. Try to strike kind of a medium light orange so that when I add even more white, I get a lighter orange. So that should be a lighter orange. And if I pick up some more white and mix it in, it should give me even lighter. So just using more white, I'm controlling how light my color is. Pretty cool. Going to go ahead and wipe off my brush. Okay, maybe even give it a rinse and move on to the next color. So the next color is red. I'm going to pick up a pure red and put it in my box. Add pure red to the side over here as well. There we go. Now I'm doing pure red plus a little bit of white. So I'm going to pull some of my red out into a mixing area, and I'm going to pull some white out. And I know that red is pretty strong, so I'm going to need my 1 part red, 2 parts white, something like that. And lo and behold, I get a light red, which is starting to look kind of like a color that we know as pink. And then pick up some more white. Try to avoid that little bit of yellow that I got there because that's going to start to make my light red more orangey. And put that in. It looks like it's a little bit lighter, and I could make it even lighter if I wanted to by adding more white. Kind of try to smush off that extra paint on my brush and then just use the paint that's on the tip of my brush. There you go. Pretty good. Okay. Wiping this down and rinsing it off and then getting all that extra water off. Now I'm moving on to violet. So I know violet is red and blue, just about equal parts. So I'll add my violet and my violet over here. There we go. Now I've lost my pure white, and I really do want to have pure white for my tints, so I am going to see if I can add some more pure white. Okay, add some pure white to my purple, pull it out so that I'm not mixing it all in here with this. I just need a little bit, and that should give me a lighter version of that color. Add more pure white to the mix of purple, and I end up with a very light version of it. Good to know. All right, same thing with the blue, pure blue, blue hue on both sides. Okay. And pick up some of the white, mix it in, and I have a lighter version. Pick up more of the white, mix it in, and I have an even lighter version. Every time I add more white, I get a lighter version of my hue. One more to go, and that is green. In order to get green with using our primary colors, we know that we have to mix blue and yellow. And yellow is the weaker color, so we're going to need more of it. Not a lot of blue. There we go. It's a pretty good green. Make sure that I mix it well. Put that down in my pure color on both sides. Now I'm going to pull some white, mix it in, and pull some even more white. There we go. So the more white that you put in, the lighter that color is, and the same thing is going to go with our darks. Now we're going to do the same thing, starting with yellow. We're going to pull out some yellow and add just a little bit. It does not take very much black at all in order to get a darker value, and then add more black to that yellow. Black is so strong, you will find that it does not take very much black at all in order to... Okay, so funny story, I finished the video and then I realized that I had once again run out of storage on my phone, and it turned off before I got to the end of my painting. So that's okay, technical issues, we're just gonna work with it. So I made this piece of paper and cut it to fit, and I'm just going to staple it in place because, you know, that's going to work. And it just staples down here, and I don't have any tape, but that's okay. We can make this work. I'm going to go ahead and redraw this line and these lines. So we are working with shades, and I already finished my yellow. Going to go on to my orange. Might have to mix some new orange because I'm doing this for the second time. Oh my goodness. It's okay. Monet painted a lot of haystacks. So we're going to go with the orange and then just a tiny bit. You can see how strong black is. You just need the itziest, bitsiest bit. And put that in place. It will make a darker orange. Add another little tiny bit of black. We don't want it to be black, we just want it to be a darker version of our orange. And go ahead and put that in place. Maybe these look too close, too similar. So maybe I do want to add a little bit more black in there. Sure can do that. There you go. Awesome. Wipe off my brush, rinse off my brush, wipe off the water. Moving on to red. I have my pure red, and I'm going to add just a little bit of black in order to give me a darker shade. Maybe I need to have just a little bit more in there. Trying to strike the right balance. There we go. And now more black. That is going to give us our darker hue. All right, wiping down our brush, rinsing, and then taking off the extra water. Now we're down to our violet. Since this is my second time around, I'm gonna mix that violet. And then I'm going to add just a little bit. This violet's already pretty dark, so I know it's not going to take much black to make it darker. Put it in place. And another bit of black to make it darker. Still. Wipe off my brush, rinse off my brush, wipe off my water, and we're close to the end. We have our blue, pull out some pure blue hue, add a little bit of black. That's nice, and even more black. If this one looks like maybe lost all of the blue in it, then come back over. Acrylics are not like watercolors. They don't sit up on top of it. I mean, they're not semi-transparent. So you can add layers of acrylics and see the top layer a lot easier. Okay. And then our last one, green. So I can see that I have contaminated some of my green, but I get just a little bit of the pure stuff, just a little bit of the yellow. It's my awesome green. Oh, oopsie, forgot to add the black. Okay, that should make it a darker shade of green. And even more black makes it a darker shade yet. Okay, before we finish, you can see that I added the word acrylics up here using our fancy lettering, and I might even come back and make it fancier yet. I just did regular stick letters that were kind of curvy. I added dots at every end, and I added these little flowery things, not everywhere, just here and there. Another way that you can make it fancy is that you can thicken up the left-hand side. Of all of your letters, just the left side. The S is tricky on these curves. I just kind of make them into moon shapes like I did with the C, and then into another moon shape for the S. Just to give it a little woo-woo. Why not? You might as well. Okay guys, that's it. Thanks for sticking with me.